Welcome to the Plant Spirit Podcast on connecting with plant consciousness and the healing wisdom of nature. This podcast is brought to you by the plants and my deep collaborative work with them as a plant spirit wisdom teacher, flower essence practitioner, financial coach, and co-creator of Plant Spirit Designs. To learn how to communicate directly with plant consciousness, you can check out the free workshop at www.learnplantlanguage.com. For nature-inspired financial coaching, visit www.financialabundancecoach.com. And for herbally inspired clothing that is an ode to the plants and the people who love them, check out www.plantspiritdesigns.com. I'm your host, Sara Artemisia, and I'm excited to introduce our next guest to the show today. Katie Rose Molina Browning is a certified herbalist, flower essence practitioner, and earth-centered ceremonialist. Her deep soul journey of connecting with the wisdom of the plant realm has been the focus of her heart and career for over 20 years. Katie weaves Vitalist, wise women, and earth-centered herbal traditions into her practice and teachings, and she's a channel for facilitating relationships between people and plants. Katie is also the founder and director of Embodying Herbalism, where she bridges the connection between people and plants through community herbalism, relationship with nature, and the healing gifts of the medicine plants of the world. Embodying Herbalism is based at her family home and center, Casa Vida Flor, in the Arenal region of Costa Rica. So Katie, so wonderful to have you with us today. Thank you for being here.
Oh, it is just my absolute deepest pleasure. Thank you so much, Sara, for having me.
Oh, absolutely. And before we begin, I actually just want to share a little story about how we met, because it really does feel like it was the plants who orchestrated it. And so several years ago, it was a new year, and I had this big, huge intention and prayer to be able to connect with local plant spirit community, to deepen in my understanding and particularly embodied relationship with the wheel of the year, and to find an incredible herbal teacher. And literally 2 days later, there was this flyer that I saw of yours in town, and it was sharing that you were about to be starting that exact thing with the Embodying Herbalism year. And so it has just been one of my greatest joys in life to be walking this plant path with you, first as a student and then as a colleague and soul friend. And I'm just so grateful to you, your work in the world, and the plants for connecting us. It's just absolutely incredible. So just had to share that before we begin, because it's just so special to me.
Oh, thank you so much, Sara. Yeah, it is absolutely no doubt in my mind the plants brought us together in such a special way, and that you were a part of that whole download of sharing the sacred herbal year. And it's just incredible to be in so many dynamic ways weaving this beautiful road together along the plant path with you. And I'm just so honored to be here with you today. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And so certainly right now, the time and the energy of Imbolc is really up. And so I was curious if you could share about that, about Imbolc, really, what is the energy of Imbolc all about, and how can we cultivate a connection to it?
Thank you so much. Yeah. So it's so beautiful being back here right now in Ashland, and where the seasons are much more pronounced. And also, as we're getting close to Imbolc, I feel just such real presence of it in my heart. So Imbolc, to my understanding, and I'm just going to speak to my understanding, is really a sacred earth holiday. So on the wheel of the year, especially in climates where we followed the wheel of the year, it is the time between winter solstice and spring equinox. And it's a time when we are really starting to feel the presence and energy of the spark of life and the flame and the awakening energy in us. And Imbolc and a lot of my like ancestral heritage is from Ireland and Scotland primarily. And it is a Gaelic word, means in the belly of the mother. And that really to me speaks a lot to what Imbolc, the energy of it, and what we are tuning into at this time of the year, which is this sense of our inner spark of life and this inner flame. And also kind of transcending from when we have been moving through the times of the year that are dark and we've really had to go inward and a lot of introspection and a lot more inward energies and inward nature. And it's kind of a reawakening time. And you see this in reflection very much, not only with the light that's returning, so the sunlight that's returning, but also with the plant life that is starting to return. Even though, for instance, here we just had quite a storm and quite a snow, as the snow is melting even today with the sun being out underneath, you can see that there are things starting to pop up and the grass is actually green under the snow. And so there's this sense of reawakening. And yeah, it's interesting. One more thing I really want to share on this is that Imbolc also, as I have spent the last better part of 10 years in Costa Rica, in a totally different climate zone, in a very different cycle of things, there is also very much a sense at this time of year of something similar, which is so interesting. And I really engender everybody to witness this wherever they are. So in Costa Rica, this is the time of year when it's transitioning from the rainy season to the dry season. And so there is this transformation in energy, there's a transformation in plants. Things are really shifting and changing. And a lot of yellow plants are coming forward, which happens here too a little bit later. But there's definitely like a whole shift in the energy of what's happening, and there's an awakening. A lot of the plants in Costa Rica, yeah, they kind of hide out a bit in the rainy season, and some have a hard time because it rains a lot, especially particularly where I am and in the Arenal region. And so there's this burst essentially that happens with the plants around us at this time there. And so, yeah, just inviting and engendering that idea too, that really, even if you are in a place where you're not fully in a seasonal climate that gets, snowy and cold, that there's still this sense of awakening happening. And so to me, if I was to put the energy of Imbolc into one word, that would be it. And that really, the awakening also within ourselves, like that vital awakening within the energy within ourselves, as well as that reflection with the outer energy of awakening, and obviously the plants that are there guiding us and showing us this.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I just love the themes of awakening and connecting with that inner flame, the inner spark, and really seeing, like you were sharing too, about that reflection of the inner awakening and the outer awakening. And I was curious to hear about different plants and
Mhm.
elements really that can guide us in this time and energy of Imbolc.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the element really of this time really is fire. And as the sun starts returning, I mean, there's also very much an element of water too, So fire and water. So what we're growing inside of ourselves, and we've been living through the winter, which has there's a lot of water element in that, but we are kind of rekindling and reawakening the fire. And so, as an element, this celebration too of Imbolc really has a lot to do with fire, and also like building our fires in our homes as well, like our hearth fires and how we gather around that hearth fire and how we start building what we are going to be creating for the year. And so I always look to the plants that are right around me. That's such a huge piece of really the relationship with with this time of year is really looking to who is showing up around you. And again, it's going to be different depending on where you live. But I really do like to look to the plants as well that are going to help, like, tend the fire and also have a tendency to be either circulatory and moving and stimulating, and also some plants that can help us even energetically, like start moving and start circulating things through our different bodies. And so it's definitely like along the lines of ones that are going to more physically do that. I really like, from my part of the world, I love ginger. And at this time of year is when you harvest ginger and turmeric, actually. I like turmeric a lot for this as well, in a little different capacity, but it also helps release things that are no longer ready to be held on to anymore, both physically and emotionally. But ginger and turmeric this time of year in Costa Rica, it's when their leaves start to fall back and their energy is more in the roots. And so this is the time of harvest for those. There's actually another time too, but it's different seasonally. And also from here, I really look to plants like rosemary. And rosemary also has this sense of really, not only is it circulating and helps bring movement and energy, but it's also a plant that's very helpful for remembrance as well. And so, what are we coming from, and what places giving direction essentially to what we're moving through, what we're leaving behind, and also really stimulating that memory into what we're going to create coming forward. And so I'm kind of speaking both to plants that can work physically with us, as well as, like I work with flower essences a lot. And so whenever I think of the plants that are associated with this time, I also think about the ones that are going to be working with other parts of both physically, but also emotionally and more dynamically for me. So I often look to the essences as well. And so also ones that are really about kindling that awakening. And it's interesting because I even remember when we did the Sacred Earth Year program, one of the plants that comes really forward to me at this time, but it often has an association with a different time, is calendula. And so calendula, because it brings, as a flower essence, it brings a lot of warmth, especially in our throat chakra, especially like what we are ready to start bringing out, what's inside of us, but we're ready to bring forward into the world in warmth and direction through our throat chakra and through our voice. And it's also like a plant of the sun. And so there's a lot of honor to the sun's return and like the awakening of spring. So that is one I like to work with. And there's definitely Angelica is another one that I absolutely love to work with this time of year, because Angelica is really helps bring the warmth into our center of creation. So our second chakra and also our third chakra and like our will. but really starts to warm up very powerfully sometimes, but that depth in ourselves and helps us digest more, but also really awakens and cultivates that warmth in those places in ourselves. And yeah, there's so many more that I could speak to, but what I really invite a lot is the relationship with those plants around you that have those messages for you. You know, it might be different for different people, and it might be different depending on what environment you're in. Definitely in Costa Rica, I can't really grow Angelica. It is not one that likes to be there. So, yeah.
I love what you were just sharing there about all the plants, and what stood out to me probably because I work with this essence most days and we have a huge patch growing around outside is rosemary, about rosemary for remembering, rosemary for remembrance. And I just love how even in that word remembering, it could be calling back to the past or remembering as a very active, coming together into states of wholeness, which I really feel with rosemary as well, and just how vitally important it is, and just how incredible that the plants are helping us with this so much of really coming back into connection with these cycles of wholeness that have been forgotten largely in many of the societies that we live in. And because you are so deeply connected with the cycles, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, and really just why is connecting with the different rhythms and cycles of the earth, lunar, planetary cycles so important to humans and particularly right now?
Mm. Wow. Thank you, Sarah. And I love that association with rosemary, even bringing that question forward. Yeah, I feel like it is. It's about remembering our connections, like our living embodied connections. I feel like definitely we are living in a time where it is vitally important for us to remember our connection and our relationships. And by following the rhythms and cycles, and also the reflections that nature is showing us, and particularly, obviously, the plant realm is showing us, is completely connected with the rhythms and the cycles, both lunar, planetary, and otherwise. And so, as we remember and awaken our connection and work with nature and remember to go out and connect and remember to bring in ways that we can connect, whether it be through ritual, whether it be through meditation, journaling, nature walking, all of it. The importance of like remembering how we are in this whole experience, and that particularly the lunar and planetary cycles, like they are very much affecting us, whether we consciously think they are or not. There is full gravitational pulls, and very much to how much it affects us, not only physically, but very much energetically too. And I think about, as an example of this, when I first moved to Costa Rica, I was very much on this trajectory of staying up really late. And I've always been a bit of a night owl, and that's sometimes when my mental space is actually better. But as I was there and living pretty deep in the jungle, and it was nearly impossible not to get back into the circadian rhythm of getting up at dawn for multiple reasons and going to bed pretty close to when the sun goes down. And how that actually very, very much changed a long term, yeah, set of issues and disorders that I was dealing with my reproductive health. And So it's vital on so many levels, on a physical level, on an energetic level, and also just for the reconnection and our remembrance of reconnection with the cycles. Because we live in a world right now that, I mean, even my daughter, sometimes I have to really help guide her to seeing like what is going on outside because there is so much that is happening in the technological realm and that disconnects us from even being aware of what is going on outside. It's affecting us no matter what, but the awareness is also very key. And the that relationship, I think it also very much comes down to the relationship and how important it is sensorially for us to connect, to have that relationship with the cycles as well through touch, through taste, through scent, through there's things going on in all the cycles and seasons of nature that we can connect to sensorially to help embody that connection and wisdom. And of course, again, the plants are helping to guide us in that process too. And yeah, sometimes it really is about just the awareness. And so, yeah, thank you.
Well, you just mentioned too how the plants can really help guide us in that connection. And I'd love to hear more about that with your experience. How do the plants specifically help us connect with the lunar and planetary cycles?
Yeah, thank you. So I feel like this is everything and it comes back to kind of what we were talking about in the beginning, which is there's obviously very different plants and different things that are going on at different parts of the world. And it really is about just this awareness and seeing who is coming forward during this times seasonally, as well as really starting. This is like a first step and how the different plants that are maybe blooming at the full moon or maybe closing as the sun goes down. So also taking like the awareness in a direction of really starting to witness what is happening with the plants at different times and how they guide us has a lot to do with how we choose to relate with them as well, but also by really bringing them into in a very embodied way how we are connecting with them, whether ritually we're taking a tea of rosemary in at the new moon to start to awaken and invigorate like what we're ready to manifest, or if it is working with a plant that comes to you that I'm going to use an example of one that we have in Costa Rica, the Reina de la Noche, which is a very like dear plant spirit to me. And it's always blooming at the full moon. And it's very much like this very powerful portal, but can also really bring in energies of what's ready to, like death, like what's ready to die, what is ready to be transformed so that we can continue to go through the portal of transformation. And so there's so many beautiful ways. And this is where it gets very juicy for me. And I probably could talk for a really long time, but ways that we can connect to the plants on a sensorial level and bringing them into our life. So maybe you want to journal with a plant, for instance, during the start of a new astrological cycle. So, since we're talking about Imbolc, it is also the new year, the lunar new year, and the start of the Aquarius cycle. And so, it is such a beautiful time to really dive into like, this is an amazing time for dreaming up your life. So, like, really, yes, we've been doing some dreaming that isn't so much in the ready to be manifested, but like, what are we really ready to manifest, like from the deepest joys? in ourselves. And so looking to a plant that maybe you want to journal with or meditate with or have a short ritual with that can help guide this. And again, it's so hard because sometimes we want to be like, okay, this is be told like this is specifically for that. But I always continue to come back to we all have very personal relationships too with the plants. And so usually as soon as you have an intention with the energy that you want to work with, the plants are going to come and show you that those are the ones that want to be worked with for that guidance. And so, literally, just with the intention of the rhythms that you're wanting to work with, that can very much be, yeah, just looking outside and who wants to guide you. And yes, there are lots of plants that have a lot of correspondences or grow within Saturn cycles or Jupiter cycles, or again, like I was talking about, open or close during certain moons, or there's lots of plants in the sunflower family or the Asteraceae that are going to really follow the sun. So if we want to start working with the rhythms of the sun or healing our masculine or so many things, then we look to those plants that are in nature following that cycle. And yeah, sometimes it is, again, beyond being told like, okay, all of these are going to help you for being guided on the Mars cycle. Sometimes it's really just having intention and having the awareness. And I think one last thing is as much of this can be personal work, the thing that I absolutely come back to all the time and why it was so beautiful for us to go through the Sacred Earth Year together too is us doing this in community too, because we also are connecting and learning with each other and bringing things forward and having that ability for reflection and ability for connecting to our wholeness together in these rhythms. And so, yeah, I very much engender like us coming together too around these things, and like what plants do you feel are helpful for the intention of working with Imbolc? And it's so beautiful to be in that community, communal connection around it as well. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, Katie, thank you so much for joining us. Just a joy always to connect and be in this deep, honoring and overflowing love for the plant realm and being in deep relationship with our kin, the green ones. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Sarah. This was just an incredible, nourishing experience. And I'm just so grateful for our continued connection. And I, yeah, love this plant journey, this green plant journey together.
And thanks so much for listening and joining us today on the Plant Spirit Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it, and please follow to subscribe, leave a review, and look forward to seeing you on the next episode.